you hear that? That was a rooster. How we doing? This is Joe Cox. We're going to talk to the, boy, he just started off there. So we're going to talk today about how do you know that you've picked the right person to spend your life with, to marry, and to share your whole earthly experience with. How do you know that that's the right person for you? So when I was growing up, coming from a narcissistic world, I danced with this little girl at 15 years old, and I told my mother how much I liked her. And my mother told me I was not worthy of a girl like that. So I go on to date people that basically were toxic to me. I started attracting the people. We attract what we are, not what we want. So if we feel unworthy, we're going to attract people that are unworthy or not at our level, or they feel like they're basically at the same energy level. So we're going to attract what we are, not what we want. This is why it's so important to prepare ourselves. But this is my story, is once I met this girl, and I started this other girl when I was like 21, I think. I started dating her. She's all right, but I just really was going to stop dating her. But she wanted to marry me, and my mother said, "Oh, you should marry her." I'm like, "Well, I'm not in love with her." She said, you should marry her because you won't find anybody else any better." And I'm like, "What?" Well, what I didn't realize is that my mother and her had come together and had this little plot. I didn't realize this until many years later. I even told the girl on the way to the wedding that I didn't want to get married. This didn't feel right. "Oh, you're just nervous." And all these people around me were sitting there saying, "I should marry her. I should marry her." And I'm like, is there something I'm missing? But this is coming from a narcissistic world. This is what you get. And I bet you other people have had this similar experience, not same, but similar experience, where they're pushing you to do something, and they've got everybody in on. Good gracious, got everybody. You hear the rooster? Oh, he's really going. They've got everybody in on it. It's like you start feeling like, am I missing something? But I'm not feeling it. What I realize, this is the primary tool that a narcissist uses to invalidate your feelings. If they can invalidate your feelings, they can control you. They can confuse you and control you, and you can do anything. They can control and get you to do anything they want you to do. So what I learned from this mistake, we wound up being married for several years, but it was never a marriage. It was just, I hung out and I kind of did my thing, and I finally just told her, I said, "This is not right. I'm not." She wanted to have kids. I'm like, "No, I'm not having kids." I knew she was not the right person for me to have kids. And I tried to tell everybody that in advance, but I came from such a sphere of narcissists that I had no support. And it literally makes you feel like you're crazy. And this is why all the videos I do is I tell you, it's like they put a mixer in your head and scrambled your brain. Parents are supposed to stabilize you, give you a stable foundation for life. But evil doesn't do that. Wanted to give his 2 cents worth too. So what we wanted to talk about now is, how do you know when you meet the right person? So most of you probably know my story by now. 30 years later, I was single for over 20 years, and 30 years later, I reconnect with that 15-year-old girl. I reconnected with her. 30 years later, and about 70 miles away from where we grew up. So we're not back in the same town. It's like, how in the world, not only do we move to the same town, but she got a job working right behind where I was working. So I think there's a higher power that tends to pull us together if we are following and listening to the signs of life. Life is a bunch of lessons. We've got lessons every single day in our life. We're in Earth School. If we look for the lessons in life, and remember, everybody is your teacher. Everything that happens to you is a lesson. Nobody ever taught me that when I was younger. And the things I know today at 16, if I had known at 16 years old, would have been a total game changer. Imagine going through life and knowing how to make the right decision every time. It's difficult to do that when your mind's scrambled and you're giving false information just to control you rather than guide you. So how do I know that when I reconnected with Jonna, you'll be meeting her in another video soon, when me and Jonna reconnected, how did I know she was the right one? I knew it to the core of my soul. The moment we reconnected, I knew she'd been the one that I'd been missing my whole life. It's like our souls mesh. If there's such thing as a twin flame or a soulmate, she's mine. We, since that point, we didn't part. We got married a year later. We've been married ever since, and it's a beautiful marriage. She has stuck by me through all my healing and struggles, and I've stuck by her. And she also had a narcissistic father, and it's funny, I knew her father and her mother and all of her siblings. So it's really interesting coming back together after all this time. So what did I learn about all this? I really knew at 15 years old that she was the right one. My mother sat there and knew it. I believe my mother knew it too, and she intentionally misguided me. That's what narcissistic parents do. They guide you down an evil, evil way. It is amazing how it's one thing to go out to the world and you've got outside evil, but to have it in your home and you're raised in it, that's where the problems that we have today. So many people are going around confused, not even knowing who they are and what they want from life. Here I am, almost 60 years old. I started this channel because now I got a pretty good grip on it. Now we got dogs barking. I think there's some hunting going on. There's 1,700 acres behind us. So must be something disrupting them over there next door. So what I want to make sure is that if you're thinking about, who to marry, and this really goes out to somebody maybe that was wondering, how do you go into, okay, you want to get married one day, so how should I be living my life today? I've heard so many people say, oh, I'm just going to party and have a good time, and then I'm going to settle down at 30 and marry. The problem with that is you marry what you are. You attract what you are, not what you want. If there's a certain type of person you want, if you want to get married at 30, you should be living that type of life up till age 30. You see where I'm going with this? So when me and my wife came together, I still knew what I wanted in my core. I was still living my core. My father, he encouraged stealing, lying, cheating, and all that. I didn't. I worked hard in the real estate career, and I did well, but I knew there was something always missing deep down in my soul. My wife feels so much of that. And so when we marry somebody or we attract somebody into our lives, how do we know that we're marrying the right person? That person should be complementary to you. In other words, your weaknesses should be their strength, your weaknesses, that sort of thing. And then you also have commonalities. But most of all, you're typically on the same consciousness level. And we can talk about consciousness level on another video. But what you want to do is develop yourself. Get yourself to be whole, mind, body, and spirit. When you have yourself right, you will attract the right person. If you're just going out dating and you're looking for somebody and said they'll do, okay, are you going to marry somebody that just works, said, okay, they're close enough? Or are you going to marry that one? You're going to marry the one that you can live with, or are you going to marry the one you can't live without? I'm now married to the one I can't live without. And what do I mean with that? That, if something ever happens, I don't ever need to get married again. I've had the fulfillment. That's why I've noticed that some people, when they marry and they've married the one, they never have a desire to get married again, because they feel that thing within them. Unless sometimes they'll say, well, I'm marrying this person just to be able to share their life and go, but I'm still going to be married to that one and only. And everybody knows that. And it's out in the air. It's not anything hidden or deceitful. So going back, let me make sure I explain. In order to find the right person to marry, in order to be the right person, you got to live like you want. In other words, you can't just party up until 30 years old and think you're going to marry somebody and be able to settle down and be happy, because that's not who you are. You're going to find discontent within the marriage because you haven't prepared for it. Whatever you do in life, you've got to prepare. And I prepared myself in so many ways, but my parents kept knocking me off. And then I would track toxic people. I would date other toxic people. It was like a wheel I couldn't get out of. And I told my higher power, I'm like, God, my higher power, universe, however you want to say it. I just looked up and said, I'm done. I'm just giving it all over. I'm turning it all over. And it's amazing. Not long after that, she came into my life. So instead of me taking control, trying to go out and find the right person, I just worked on myself and the right person came to me. It just kind of came together. So hopefully that helps you kind of our story. As far as my marriage now, do I know for sure I'm married to the right person? Absolutely. We don't argue. We don't fuss. If we have a disagreement, we talk about it and come to a resolve. Why does that work? This is the key. This is, I think, one of the secrets that you don't hear many people say. You always hear say there's always sacrifices and give and take and all. But this is the key for me, is that my wife, I want her to have everything. I want her to have the best, and I'm always there to make sure she's taken care of. The key is she's doing that for me too. She always wants the best. So if you're always, you don't give 50-50, you're each giving 100% of yourself to the other. And the give and take works. The give and take balances. And it's amazing because you can just feel the love when she does stuff for me. It's just amazing. I can't imagine how wonderful my life would have been if I had gotten the support from my mother at 15 years old. You know, my parents did nothing but trip us up and cause a lot of division. None of us are close to one another. Nobody wants to have anything to do with the parents. It's just nothing but poison and toxicity in the family I was raised in. The point behind this channel is to show you no matter what you come from, you can find peace and harmony. You got to start living it before you start sharing it. Live the life that you want to live to attract the person that you want in your life. Hopefully those are words of wisdom for you today. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Leave comments below. See if you'd like me to do a video on another relative topic of helping you find the right person, helping you find, what steps do you need to do to attract that person. I'm just as a rule, just to let you know, I have talked to so many people and that have been married 20, 30, 40 years. And they will say, yeah, they married a good person. And a lot of them are honest with me. I'm not sure why they're so honest, but they'll say, no, that's not my soulmate, but they were good to me, this and that. So we will accept, let's put it this way, you'll never have more than what you're willing to tolerate in life. If you want to marry somebody and they're good enough, then that's what you'll have. Don't complain. But if you're willing to hold out for that one and only, I'm not guaranteeing you they're going to come, but at least you won't be settling. If I had it to do again, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have never settled. But I was taught to settle. I was taught from everything around me to settle and not believe in myself. Everything toxic in this world. Put yourself first. Develop yourself to where you can prepare to go out and find that amazing person that wants to share their life and treat you well. Treat you like the person that treats you like you want to treat them. Let's put it that way. If you find that, you've got it. Mutual respect, mutual honor, integrity, those type of things. So hopefully those have been good words of wisdom for today. I hope it helps you to know if you're dating somewhere and you're like, I've got flies, it doesn't feel right or something. My recommendation is probably should hold off. Everybody I know, this is another thing. One more thing before we leave. This right here was key. Every single person I've ever talked to that has gotten a divorce said that they had second thoughts right before they got married, but they thought it was just cold feet or nerves. When I got married to the love of my life, I didn't have one second thought, no nervousness, no anything. After I married her, until today, I still know she was the perfect one for me. That's what you're supposed to feel when you marry the right person. Let me know if you held out to the end here. This is Joe Cox. Life Made Simple. Getting through your narcissistic world where you can make wonderful choices for yourself. Your goal is to have wholeness. Happiness is not the purpose of life, but happiness is the result, a byproduct of a life well lived. From Joe Cox here, Life Made Simple, getting through this narcissistic world. Like and subscribe if you think I've earned it. From my heart to yours, blessings.